Hello, welcome back to my e-portfolio. This section we're going to be doing section 3 on reflective practice. You had my previous recording was on syllabus examples. Now we will be basically, let me scroll down here a little bit, we'll be looking at course outcome 3.3. Course outcomes are basically, when I look at it, it was part of my syllabi, but when explaining it to the student, it gives them the rationale for taking the class. What would they expect after studying, doing the homework, using the software, interactive, and providing me a written document at the end? What should they know? And not only what they should know, because in my course outcomes, how could I take these outcomes and able to put them into practice? Not just understand the definition, but actually not only put them into practice, but look at different organizations or companies and see how it is applied. They're applied there. So let me go. I have 3 courses that we've been running into this e-portfolio. And the first one is strategic management, to student outcomes. And this one here, when we come up with this, when we came up with the student outcomes, these are the outcomes that is listed with the college, and it's an outcome that not only full-time but also adjuncts or contractors work together to redefine the outcomes to bring them to what is practical and what is expected of a person that completes, in this case, strategic management, which is a capstone here at the college. Okay, so they should be able to explain what strategic management and identify the changes. Oops, made an error in here. Okay, I'll have to correct that. And the scope of responsibilities of managers and supervisors. Explain the process of planning, organizing, directing, controlling, and staffing. That's the basic management. For you look at the core of management. So someone's going to say, "Hey, I want to be a manager. What are the functions or functions that a manager has to be competent and able to exhibit?" Identify and explain theories regarding organizational structure, change, and organizational behavior. Part of management, especially, is how to identify the structure you're operating in, and where and when should we change that structure depending on the new culture or what we would call the new external environmental forces that is required by a management. That's explained, and then students usually give me some questions back and forth how is applicable in business. And then apply quantitative approaches to improve managerial and supervisory performance. Little different than qualitative. Quantitative is everything about the numbers. You could say I'm a good manager, team relations and all this. But the bottom line is, how do I take those feelings, those emotions, and able to put numbers behind them to see if we're uh, achieving those goals? Okay, analyze management systems and utilize management information systems in decision making process. Like it or not, we look at different aspects, research, and there are different what they call dashboards in management. And one of the objectives are basically to utilize management information systems that are really available. That could be your budgets, your reporting, your controlling how many people are your overtime. All that in a nutshell, tells me that I utilize the systems that are embedded within a company and be able to make decisions with those, what do you call it, information that's internal. I also have to look external, what we call benchmarking. How do I benchmark? I benchmark against the best. That means here's a standard. How am I achieving that? If not, what should I do, or what do other companies do by identifying what they're doing? And develop solutions to case problems dealing with supervisory and managerial problems in business. One of the objectives I tell them, one of the core objectives that you'll be doing case studies. As a manager, middle manager, a lot of times I'm not there when things are happening. So I have to analyze it after the effect happens. So part of the case study is looking at the information that's presented and how do I be able to identify the problem, which is usually the hardest thing, either through team or collaborative interaction, or through my experience or to other outside sources that this is the problem and how do we come up with a solution. In management, we usually have to have at least four different alternatives. So if alternative one does not work, we do not reinvent the wheel. We take parts of alternative B. And there's always a check and balance to make sure we are on target. Apply managerial principles to global management and decision making. Most companies, almost even from a small business entrepreneur or sole proprietor or a partnership or like my own company that umbrella I'm under, LLC, operate in a global environment. You may not have to leave the country, but the individuals or other companies that are here in the U.S. have a global aspect. I have to understand, how do I deal with them? What are the attributes? What are the areas that I have to avoid? How do I make connection with them? How do I present my ideas and concepts that mesh their, not stereotyping, but their general approach to resolving issues? So these are things that, and all this are transferable knowledge, other than the definitions and the concepts you learn. But these are all transferable knowledge that and abilities that this course will provide to the student, so he or she may not be an expert, but at least they have a general idea to look at utilizing critical thinking skills and take these different variables and able to apply them. Now the next one is my finance class, and this was developed, this is fairly recently. Now the finance class, we're still working on this. So if I'm looking at the course objectives, these are course objectives that's listed in the catalog at the college. This is the course objective that I have to require. We're going to try to minimize these, like all these here were 20, and we minimize them into big groups because basically they all tie in. So explain the relationship between risk and reward. Basically, it's finance. If there's a gamble, there's a probability that things will happen, and the higher the risk, the bigger reward I expect. Define the goal of financial manager is to bring the company online and to make a profit. I'm a business. If you're a nonprofit organization, that profit that you create or make, how do I apply that to, for lack of better words, to give back to the cause that I'm looking for? Describe the environmental factors the managers must consider in carrying out the responsibility. Right now, when you look at the factors that managers has to do with the new administration, the Trump administration, or the Trump effect, for lack of better words, with President Trump. He's got the trade wars, he got all this. So financially, how do I protect my organization depending what the unknown is? If there's going to be trade implementations put on China, and I receive a lot of my supplies from China, I have to make that adaptation. Start looking for suppliers within the organization. If I'm out there, I might want to bring my organization or my manufacturing back here. Remember, the bottom line of management or finance is to make a profit and to maintain the risk. And what are the terms and conditions? This is the president we have, this is the administration here, and here's how we have to work within the administration. That's business, okay? Calculate present value and future value of dollar and annuity. How much is a dollar worth now versus in the future? There's a formula that we come up. In the future, the dollar is still a dollar, but may not have the same purchasing power. And how do I look at or come back? So do I make decisions now or later? Explain how cost of capital is applied to bonds, preferred stock, and common stock. It's just an extension. So they already had accounting. They already had some intro to business. We talked about stocks and bonds, and now we're looking at the cost of capital. How much does it cost to maintain it? Either I purchase stocks as another flow of income, or I basically sell stocks or bonds. That's debt or equity financing. Recognize the importance of working capital management. I have to be able to utilize my assets effectively. Discuss the goal of cash management and to utilize this to achieve the goal. Cash management basically is, in accounting terms, would be cash flow. I may have all my money tied up in long-term assets, but I can't pay my bills. That affects my cash flow. That also affects my creditworthiness and everything else. This is what I explain to the student. Define the concept of leverage and its risk to and relationship to risk. Leverage is because of the 5 C's: character, what do you call it? Collateral, capital. If I'm looking at the 5 C's, I'm looking at, or basically, if I'm looking at, what the heck, I lost my train. Not to recognize as working capital management, a goal of cash to achieve the goal. Oops, I'm up in here. So it's evaluation. Oh, hey, I'm doing pretty good here. Just like in class, I go, oh my God, that's why I got to bring it down to only 6. The cost of capital, measure profitability, working capital is money I need. Leverage. Where is it? Preferred stock, common stock. Where the heck did I have leverage? I just lost it. Oh, concept of leverage to risk. Sorry. I got to move this up in here. If I'm looking at leverage, it's like if I buy, I got good. I have the company has good credit, so if they have good credit, they could basically get a loan. If I have good credit, I have a job. I leverage those aspects, those 5 characters of an individual, and the bank will allow me to have a loan. If you notice, I could cut this out, but this is what you get. Students who have me, I'm live. I can't change that in the classroom. I can't rewind, so you get the real me. Okay, explain. Let's see. So I've got important. Okay, define risk and risk adversity. Risk is anything else. It's a probability. That's why you have to learn statistics and probability. What's probability that this will happen? In business, if I have a 60% probability, most likely I'll go with that project. Okay, define commercial paper and how it's used. Advantage. Commercial paper is basically like IOUs, either I sell it or loans I could get back. Explain influence on bond prices and yield. It depends what's going on now. Right now, the government bonds are good. If I'm issuing my own bonds, which would be called debt financing, what happens? If there's risky, they will still buy my bonds, but they want a higher return on their assets or higher interest rates. Explain zero coupon rate, floating rate. Zero coupon rate is basically I don't get it to the end. Here's what it is until after the bond's done. Or the other ones, I have a coupon rate that every quarterly I pay out. Differentiate between capital markets and money market. Capital markets are in there, the banks are something else. A lot of times, capital markets I could borrow from other individual. When I look at money markets, they're money either through the banking system that I could get. Explain security markets, concept of efficiency, security market. Look at security market, New York Stock Exchange. Security markets, they already have the underwriters, they have a bank. There's somebody that's saying, hey, the assets are there. You still have the risk, but you have a little more insurance, for lack of better words. Okay. Explain the effect of exchange rate. Exchange rate is what's going on. The exchange rate goes down, goes up. Depends how much the U.S. dollar is worth against other currency. If you take international business, and we touch a little bit at the end there, we go international business, it's basically international business is looking at exchange rate. So if the exchange rate is low, and I need money, I could borrow from a subsidiary, move it around, and then when the value or the exchange rate is favorable to the business to make a profit, then we'll exchange it at the currency that we need it. One thing about multinational organizations or global companies, they have no loyalty to any country. The world is our market. Okay. Effect of exchange. Discuss hedging and risk on foreign exchange. Again, there's something else. Hedging means I'm gambling that I'll buy it now, and hopefully in the future it'll go up. I do. There's puts and calls, and it's basically hedging. When you look at hedging, if you look at commodities, if I know the oil price is going up, I'll try to lock it in now, hedging that I will have that price locked in. The problem is if the price goes down, I'm still locked into that price and have to buy that oil at that price. It's a gamble. Anything in finance is a risk, and that's the intuitive. You have to look at the numbers, historical data, and trends. Explain derivative markets, both regulated and over the counter market. If I look at derivative, it's basically basically something's there as a collateral. If and the derivative market, and there's a little bit more into that. I'm just trying to keep this video low, okay? Select, okay, and the last one here, we have part of the whole thing of the objectives. You see, so I got 26. It's a half an hour here on this, but we're going to try to bring it down to 15. I'm working on a committee at the college to bring this, at least these. The business division is looking at all the objectives and everything else. Not that we eliminate them, we're just putting them underneath a large umbrella, so it's a lot easier to explain instead of going face to face. But in reality, if you take this finance class, you should be exposed to this concept. Then if you transfer to a four-year university, they will take up the next level, and then for your then your master's, and then for your doctoral university or your PhD, you'll basically have a good handle of this concept. Okay, now let's go back. This one used to be also 21. We brought it down. Sports marketing, course objectives, from one to the other. This course designed as a comprehensive, innovative, practical introduction to sports using online format. This one's strictly online class. Helps students understand the sports marketing process, describe the role of sports marketing economy, society, and culture. What people don't understand, when you look at sports marketing, it's part of marketing. Sports marketing is in the entertainment phase. How do I market to people? When I look at sports, it's entertainment. You try to keep the politics out of this, and I tell students, I understand you have everything else, but in marketing, politics is to protect a brand name. You don't want to alienate one side over the other, okay? Explain the effect and control of variables when creating a marketing plan for sports-related products and services. I look at the brand, and if you look at what's happening with NFL with the kneeling, or something else happened, or domestic violence, or kids that, especially with football, that have had concussions, that affects the brand. How do I overcome that, or come up with a way to minimize that effect on the brand, or minimize the effect on the sports? Part of sports is practitioners and spectators. If you look at myself, I am not a practitioner. I am a spectator. I like looking at other people play soccer, and also like watching soccer. I just like watching the sports. And I still get the same rush, for lack of better words. Identify opportunities and strategy. Part of marketing, you have to happen what's happened now. You have to be quick, and you have to be very flexible. If the Cubs won the World Series, I better have something to promote that. If the Cubs lost the series, I'll have another thing. Say, hey, come over to George's Bar and Grill, and we'll among friends, and we'll mourn together, for lack of better words. Okay, identify, apply the marketing mix, and if I look at the marketing mix, the product, price, and place and promotion, that is the full thing. You have two different aspects that you're doing in sports marketing. One is either selling my product to consumers or businesses, or you're selling my products to consumers only. That's business to consumers or business to business. If you look at it, it's a different way of selling, a different way of promoting. But from a sports marketing perspective, you have to know both markets, because when I'm selling to business, I understand their clientele better than they do, and that's what makes me a resource. But I'm helping, trying to promote my products so they buy by larger quantity. If I'm dealing with business to consumers, there's a lot of them out there, so I have to have between, same thing like with marketing, basically this is marketing, only a very niche of marketing, looking at the entertainment of sports. And what's considered sport? Walking. If I look at some of even breathing as a sport, well, how could breathing? Yoga, okay? Meditation. You have to have a meditating robe. You have to have a mat for yoga. I'm just teasing in here, okay? Understand the global marketplace and role of ethics in sports marketing. If there's an issue, how do I overcome it? Don't lie to the customers. Come up with a new product. They have now helmets here. If you have concussions, especially for younger kids, you'll be able to record that concussion and tell you, hey, warning, maybe you should see a doctor, or this concussion wasn't that much. It basically is, and in technology, you have sportswear now that if I'm golfing, I can pin it to see which way it might swing. They're active sportswear in there. So there's a lot in there. Okay, so that's about it for my objectives. And objectives are very important, because this basically solidifies with the students, why should I take this course? What will I be able to learn, not only learning, able to apply when I do try to get a job in sports or in marketing, that I have this the knowledge and how that knowledge is applicable in an everyday situation if I'm in that position, or how could I identify what my competitors are doing and utilize that to my advantage, or make my adjustments, or what they call the SWOT: strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses are within the company, opportunities and threats are outside, but I'm always monitoring both internal and external and see how I adjust it. And the bottom line is to protect the brand. And when I protect the brand and make no, I don't want to upset one side or the other. I always stay in neutral. The brand is what I am involved with, and a brand is basically why people buy. All right, so that's it to my objectives. I hope I kind of explained why they're important, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Oh, 20 minutes. I'm getting better at this. Yeah, I'll keep it down to 15. Okay.